who wanted to know what the original language of humanity was. Herodotus says that the Egyptian pharaoh took two newborn twin children and shut them up in a tower with a deaf and dumb wet nurse and allowed no one to communicate with them. And he wanted to find out what language they would grow up speaking. And according to Herodotus, they grew up speaking Scythian. First proof, of course, that the original language of humanity was Scythian. Now, actually, that story is a bit of folklore, and it's told in several variations about different people. The same story, essentially the same story, is told about a Dutch scholar during the Renaissance, who also took two twins and shut them up with a deaf and dumb nurse to see what language they would grow up speaking, and they grew up speaking Hebrew. It shows perhaps there had been a change in the original language of humanity between Herodotus and the Renaissance. It's a theme, a folk motif that we see occurring again and again. And HPB is herself very much interested in this question of the primordial language of humanity. She first mentions it, so far as I know, in her first great work, Isis Unveiled. And there she calls this primordial language Senzar. She names it that, the Isis. And she continues to talk about it in The Secret Doctrine, where indeed she says that the stanzas of Zan, a very ancient scripture on which the whole Secret Doctrine, her greatest work, is a commentary. Those stanzas of Zan, she said, were originally written partly in Senzar. And she continued to talk about this Senzar language through all of her life, so that even some posthumously published writings, which now appear in volume 14 of her collected works, which have just been published this last year, some of those writings still talk about Senzar, this primordial language. Well, you know, any subject about which there is very widespread and enduring interest, any subjects that human beings have been interested in all over the world and for a long period of time, must be an important subject, right? Human beings aren't interested in things, don't preserve an interest in things which aren't important. So this question then, although obviously, you know, it's a subject sometimes of joking and of merriment, yet nevertheless, this subject has a really serious side. And I think that's what I'd like to look at with you this evening. And in particular, what I want to do is to examine some things that HPB, that Helena Blavatsky, has said about this mystery language called Senzar. And to begin with, it's clear that Senzar is itself a mystery. According to HPB, it is the language of the stanzas of Zan and of certain commentaries and glosses on those stanzas. She calls Senzar, however, a tongue absent from the nomenclature of languages and dialects with which philology is acquainted. And she's exactly right in this, because so far as I know, nobody else before HPB or apart from HPB has ever mentioned the name Senzar. Senzar occurs first in the writings of HPB. That name appears in none of the lists of the world's languages that linguists have compiled, nor in fact is it ever likely to. We know about Senzar only what HPB has told us, but in fact she's told us a good deal. Now, much of what she says makes Senzar sound like a language like any other language, a language like English or French or Swahili or Latin. For example, at one point, HPB describes a dream she had in which she was studying Senzar in one of her teacher's houses. At the same time, she was improving her knowledge of English with his aid. And she compares Senzar with other ordinary languages. She talks, for example, about the Senzar and Sanskrit alphabets right together as though they were parallel, so they were the same sort of thing. She calls it the sacerdotal language, the mystery tongue, and she says it's a direct progenitor, root, or origin of Sanskrit. She also seems to relate Senzar to Avestan, the language of the ancient Persian scriptures, the ancient scriptures of Zoroastrianism. She also relates it to hieroglyphic Egyptian hieroglyphs. She compares it to many other languages. There are, however, some very peculiar puzzles in what HPV says about Censor if we assume that she's talking about an ordinary language. For example, during a discussion in one place of the Amida Buddha, this is a figure from the Mahayana Buddhist tradition. In a discussion of Amida Buddha, she says this. This is a quotation from HPV. Amida is the Sanskrit form of Adi. Now, that's a very odd statement which HPV makes. The word Amida, the name of this Buddha figure, is in fact Japanese. In fact, it's the Japanese form of a Sanskrit word, Amitabha, which means boundless light. Amitabha Buddha is one of the 5 or 7, depending on how one counts, 5 or 7 Jnani Buddhas, which are the expressions in the world of the Adi Buddha. And Adi Buddha is the primordial, the absolute, the one, the origin of all, which expresses itself in 7 ways. And these 7 ways are the 7 Jnani Buddhas, of which Amitabha Buddha or Amida Buddha is one. So if we take HPV's statement that Amitabha is the Censor form of Adi, she's wrong on 2 counts.
Here at Joe Cuba's World of Cartooning, want to thank you for taking part in this course. Listen carefully to Joe's tips and instructions and apply these ideas to your own life. And now, here's Joe.
Hi. Welcome to my studio. This is where I work. This is the place I like being the most. I hope you enjoy drawing as much as I do. I know sometimes it's tough. Sometimes the drawing doesn't come out precisely the way you'd like. But if you want to improve your drawing, I'm here to help you. You, however, have to make the effort. I'll be with you every step of the way, and we'll both watch your drawings improve as we go along. So, get your video and your workbook, set them up, and let's get started. Cartooning goes back hundreds of years. Even the great masters like Michelangelo did cartoons. That is, a series of illustrations that tell a story. The Egyptians used hieroglyphics to tell their history. American Indians used petroglyphs, drawings on stone. Storytelling in picture form goes further back than that, to the time of the cavemen. They decorated cave walls with ritual hunting scenes, animal statues. Those were our earliest cartoonists. To begin with, you'll need to set yourself up a workplace so that it's both comfortable and convenient. Set up your drawing surface, whether it's a table or a lap board, so that it's at a 90-degree angle from your eyes. If it is not at this 90-degree angle, your drawings will seem distorted. If you don't have a drawing table or even a lap board to start working with, use the carton that your lessons came with. Just set it up on your lap and draw on that. Remember now, keep your materials neat and near at hand. Keep your sketch paper close by so that should you need it, you've got it. Also, I keep all my references handy in files like this. Set up your VCR where it can be easily seen and where you can operate it, because you're going to need it to constantly refer back and forth between the workbook and the video. That's the way you're going to get the most out of this course. You'll find that there is a blank sheet of drawing paper inserted between each lesson page in your course book. In addition, you'll need plenty of plain, letter-sized bond and tracing paper for practice. Remember to do all your rough sketching on practice paper before you put your finished drawing on the 2-ply boards provided for your homework. As you finish each of the lessons in this course, you'll be sending them in to us one at a time for review, constructive criticism, and a lot of encouragement. Send in only the special homework page, because no other sketches or drawings will be reviewed. The homework page goes into the pre-addressed mailing, and it will be returned to you with our comments the same way. We will only review your work in sequence. That is, lesson 1 must be completed and returned before we'll deal with lesson 2. It's essential for you to review our comments and instructions on one lesson before you tackle the next. Understand that horror, things that scare us, are merely distortions of normalcy. Horror is a subject that attracts and repels at the same time. It's like looking at a pit full of snakes. You don't want to look, yet you've got to. There's nothing scary about an average person that kind of looks like everyone else. And there's nothing scary about a little bug, an ant. Take an ant's head, put it on a human body. A grotesque drawing must have some basis in fact. If you try to draw a subject with no relationship to reality, the drawing's liable to look silly. If your drawing doesn't look possible or believable, it will not be scary. That's why it's so important to learn to draw correctly. Only then can we distort the drawing, exaggerate, put a monster in a convention location. That's scary. Follow these steps. First, study your story.
Passed in the Spencer. So, if you didn't know, Harry Osborn dies. Harry Osborn is dead. He dies actually very traumatically but beautifully. It's a great story, very emotional, and it's really a mark left in Amazing Spider-Man's history. It really, really is imperative and a big moment. It's super important. I love it, honestly. As sad as it is for Harry Osborn, a long-term character of the series who often is getting the short end of the stick, whether it be because of his father or because of his own insecurities. He does also die, so it's not like things get much better, but he does end up having a wife for a bit. He has a kid as well, he's got Normie, So, like, it made sense to me, the story did its thing, it was really sad, but it was also moving, and it left its mark on Spider-Man, and it was important to the mythos. But that was retcon. Spencer retconned this. He actually retconned this so he can retcon something else. Harry Osborn apparently makes a deal with the devil or something of the sort. And he becomes Kindred, this monster who's like hunting down Spider-Man and whatnot. And he's like messing with Norman Osborn as well. And then you turn to find out that like Norman Osborn, he brings up the fact that he was banging Gwen Stacy back in the day, which was just abysmal. That was during Sin's past. And then Harry Osborn's like, oh, come on, you can't actually possibly think that was real. That was like a Mysterio and a clone. You can't possibly believe that. So this retcon was made to retcon a significantly worse retcon. But it's still in itself a really bad retcon. Harry Osborn, like I just said, his death was integral to Spider-Man's story. It was a very big part of it. I think resurrecting him solely so you could redo or retcon something else is just a waste. I think there's other ways to retcon Sin's past without even using Harry Osborn at all. I don't think it's important. It's almost laughable how goofy this is. It's like, this retcon is so bad, I'm going to retcon something else to try and fix this so bad retcon, and thus creating another so bad retcon. But I digress. This is my opinion. I don't think Harry Osborn being resurrected from Kindred should have been a thing. I do get the resurrection having to be retcon Sin's past, and Sin's past is god awful. So I'm not gonna harp on it too much either. But the next one's also from Spencer's run. This one's not too much of a super big deal, but I do think it also just makes things too much of a divine intervention, not relatable, not realistic kind of opportunity. And when I say that, we're going to move to number 8. Number 8 on my worst retcons list in Spider-Man history happens to be when Norman Osborn makes a deal with the devil. This is during Spencer's run as well. Norman Osborn makes a deal with Mephisto so that he's guaranteed to have power and wealth and richness in his life. I don't like this personally. I think it only adds to the layers or levels of Norman Osborn almost not being a bad person. I understand that somebody can say this is a bad person because he's making a deal with the devil at the end of the day, but plenty of heroes in the Marvel Universe make deals with the devil. Plenty of Spider-Mans even make deals with the devil. So I'm not going to inherently say making a deal with Mephisto is going to make you a bad character. I'm just not going to do it. But I do think it does weaken the notion that Norman Osborn is a bad character. He's not supposed to be a man behind the mask, and the mask is evil, and he's a good guy. No, that's not it. He's a man who's evil, and then he puts on a mask and does other evil stuff. And you can honestly say that all of it's evil. Like him being the CEO of the company, he's not a good person when he's doing all that stuff. He's an evil person. Then he puts on the goblin mask, and he continues to do evil. So to me, it just doesn't it kind of waters down that whole story of Norman Osborn just being a terrible person when he's making a deal with the devil to gain money and power and future and fame in the future. Not fame, but money and power in the future, and it's like, yeah, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be making deals with the devil to gain money and power, sure. But at the end of the day, like, when you have a wife and a kid and you're making a deal with the devil for money, it's like, I want to ensure a safety net for my family. Like, you can make that argument, you know? So to me, it's just a little bit far-fetched that Norman Osborn's going out there making a deal with Mephisto solely so they can guarantee he gets strength and wealth. I just don't really post on that. I think Norman Osborn's a way better character when he gets all that himself. He's just evil all by himself. So that's why I have this ranked at number 8, personally, for the worst retcons in Spider-Man's history. But we're going to move on. We got number 7. Number 7. This happens to be the Lizard actually just being evil. This happens in Spectacular Spider-Man. Read that run. So, if you didn't know the Lizard story, it's a bit confusing. I already made a video on the Lizard and I talked about it, and it's confusing. Oftentimes, the Lizard's evil. Other times, the Lizard is just a rampaging monster, so it's less evil and more just like its nature. And then other times, the Lizard's even a good guy. And then Kurt Connors has full control of the Lizard's brain. So all this put together, and it's like, well, how does the Lizard actually work? Okay, if we're going to see him being a good guy, if we're going to see him in control as a bad guy, and if we're going to see him as a raging monster, not in control as a bad guy, it's a force of nature, where do we draw the line for his actual characterization, right? Every writer can't just pick and choose how he's supposed to be. That doesn't work. You want consistency in a comic. I know it's going to be 60 plus years, and the Lizard, like, I think appears in issue number 8, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 6. Anyway. So he's literally been 60 plus years in these comics. So I know things are going to change, but it's just, those are 3 different things that are constantly rotating. But in the 2003 one, they definitely take a choice, and it's a choice I didn't like. If I were to choose how I think the Lizard should be done, it's the Lizard would be a rampaging monster. If it's a force of nature, that's his nature. He's naturally a monster. He's naturally trying to do like lizardy monstrous stuff. But when he has the control under himself, he's a good guy. I like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde portrayal of Lizard Kurt Connors the best. But this story, the Spectacular Spider-Man 2003 run, paints the Lizard as being evil the entire time. Kurt Connors naturally chooses to hide his consciousness away in the Lizard so that the Lizard's evil consciousness can actively choose to be evil on the world, and Kurt Connors can feign ignorance about it all, even though it's a choice that he's making to do so that the Lizard can go out and be evil. Now this, I don't like it. I just don't like it. I think it makes Kurt Connors look like way too evil of a character. Kurt Connors' character is never supposed to be this evil, at least that to my notion or anything I've read from him. He's never meant to be the bad guy. Like, sure, a lizard can be bad, and even if you want to have the lizard have brain power when he's a lizard and be evil with it, like he's pondering like a cure or a chemical that would turn everybody into lizards, like even that can work. I don't think that's a bad idea. I just think you go too far when you show Kurt Connors as being the bad guy and he's actively choosing to do bad. So often throughout Spider-Man's mythos, Kurt Connors and Peter Parker are like buddy-buddy. You know, they're not like, I mean, they are friends actually at a certain point. You know, like student-mentor kind of vibes until more friendly, like, Peter vibes. But either way, when you have them be inherently evil, it just doesn't make sense because Peter Parker's not really friends with too many people who are just inherently evil, right? Like when he met Norman Osborn back in the day when he was, friends. But back in the day, whenever he met Norman Osborn, he wasn't really too cool being around him. Like something about this guy's even the creeps. You know, he doesn't want to be around Cletus Cassidy. That's an evil doer as well. So just this notion that somebody he's so close with, somebody he literally hand saved from Battleworld and brought back literally hand in hand with him from Battleworld is a villain? Like, I don't know. I just don't really like that. I think it's a really bad retcon. You could just had it where the Lizard becomes smart and evil, or when Kurt Connors isn't the Lizard, he's just smart and good. That's how I would have preferred it. That's how I think most fans would prefer it. This whole evil Kurt Connors thing just doesn't work for me. But we're going to move on to number 6 on our list for the worst retcons in Spider-Man history. And in number 6, I have Venom's cancer wasn't actually cancer. This is done during the Donny Cates run. In the run, as much as I liked it, I loved it. I did love it. It does have some things where Donny Cates was sort of like, I don't care about the canon. Like a lot of Eddie's backstory, he just decided to change on a whim. And like he made this villain thing up on a whim. But to me, the most dastardly part that I can recognize or reconcile with, me personally, it's the fact that the whole cancer thing isn't really real. You know, that was tough for me because that's a big part of Eddie Brock's story. In the earlier days for Eddie Brock, he gets cancer, right? And when he has this cancer, he's no longer really his Venom himself. You know, he loses the Venom symbiote, if I'm not mistaken, after a a while because of the cancer. Matt Gargan got the Venom symbiote. And Eddie Brock is just like this skinny guy who's literally dying day by day with cancer. He ends up in Feast one day, looking for a meal for food. He actually gets cured by Mr. Negative. And this cure cures his cancer, and it also turns him into anti-venom. The little venom symbiote that's still in him turns into anti-venom at that point. So now you have a whole new character, anti-venom. It's pretty sick, right? I love it. I think that's really cool. I liked it a lot. And now it's on Flash Thompson, so we have an Agent Anti-Venom. The Anti-Venom also gave Eddie Brock a new lease on life. When he was no longer Venom, we had a chance of getting an Eddie Brock Venom again. In games like Spider-Man at the time, it was Anti-Venom, sure, but it was Eddie Brock. And that was still cool. At least it's Eddie Brock's Venom. We can still work with it. But then you go further, you're reading this run, and you find out that the cancer actually wasn't true. It was actually a manipulation by the symbiote on Eddie Brock. And it's like, whoa, that's a lot. Like, the fact that it changes the whole dynamic between Eddie Brock and the symbiote is one thing. Like, it changes it completely. From it just like, over time, it gives him cancer, to it maliciously and meticulously making him think he has cancer. Those are two different things. One is like, it unintentionally gave him cancer. Okay, well, it didn't know any better. The other is just like vicious and monstrous and evil, if almost anything, But to go even further, like I just explained, it also just makes like the anti-venom thing like, what? Why did he have to go to Feast? And why was Marvel curing him of cancer if he didn't actually have cancer? So to me, I just like that. I love Donny Cage's run. It's actually probably my favorite Venom run ever. It actually does something with the character. It has a cool narrative. It's moving towards something. He's the comeback king, ladies and gentlemen. But this one little part and a few other things, they are retcons I did not really like personally. Next, we're going to move to number 5. Number 5 on this list, I have the resurrection of 1610 Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Now, to me, this was just unnecessary. It was done for no reason. At least to me. Like I said, this is just my opinion. If you guys disagree, feel free to let me know down below. But again, to me, this was completely unnecessary. They already had the story moved on. Peter Parker died, Miles Morales became Spider-Man, and it was this beautiful motivational thing. Molded Miles Morales as Spider-Man quite a bit. He did his thing, the Spider-Man thing, and then all of a sudden, boom! Peter Parker's actually alive because the serum he took, the Oz serum, was like an immortal serum, and now Spider-Man's an immortal character. And what do they do with this immortal character now? He just stops being Spider-Man. He gets to walk off into the sunset with Mary Jane. Like, I'm actually not too opposed to that, because the fact that he gets to walk off into the sunset with Mary Jane because he believes there already is a Spider-Man and it can both of them. I just think it's a little whack when you talk about the fact that they had to go through this whole resurrection process of talking about how he was immortal the whole time, when just so he can never actually do anything again as Spider-Man. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's fun, too, I guess. That's what you really wanted to do. I'll let it slide. I'll let it rock. But at the end of the day, I just think you could have had him die and not even explore the story anymore. It's okay. Not every Spider-Man's going to end up with Mary Jane, right? Not every... Let me take that back. Every Spider-Man should end up with Mary Jane, but not every Spider-Man's going to make it out alive. There's a superhero doing very dangerous stuff every single day. If Spider-Man dies, okay? I'm going to be sad. It only adds to the story, right? Please, Spider-Man 2024, don't die. Please, Spider-Man 2024, please, don't die. I'm just saying, it's not the worst thing in the world that 1610 Spider-Man died, and it really propelled other characters forward within the universe. I think bringing it back to life kind of just, I don't know, makes that stuff, bringing back, the stuff that motivated other people just seem kind of stupid. That's just my opinion. We're moving on to number 4. Alright, we're getting into some of the stuff that may be controversial. At least this one may be controversial. I know some people really like the character, but I think she's usually born. But this is Aunt May's death. This was done in J&D run, to my knowledge, if I'm not mistaken. Aunt May was shown to be dead, but it turns out this was not actually Aunt May. It was like an actor hired by the Green Goblin to play Aunt May. So stupid, man. Like, this is really just stupid. I don't love Aunt May. I've never made that known on this channel. I've actually probably made it known quite the opposite. It's not that I don't love her. I think she's a great character. She's important to Spider-Man's mythos. And to an extent, I do love her, especially in the live action, especially in Tobey Maguire's universe. That animation is perfect. Rosemary Harris, I believe her name is, phenomenal. Just perfect, But I do think the character has overstayed her welcome. I think Aunt May at this point, she's what? It's got to be at least 150 years old. Because the Amazing Spider-Man started, she was an ancient person. She was elderly. She's described as elderly in the first few comics. So how is 60 fucking years later she's still kicking? Just made sense to me that they kill her off and have it propel Spider-Man forward. You know, kind of similar how Harry Osborn died. But I mean, then they brought him back too. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta kill the character if the character's overstayed their welcome, and then they can still leave a mark on the franchise. Gwen Stacy died, leaves a mark in the franchise. She should stay dead. End of discussion. I don't care what they do right now. Just say my opinion. She should stay dead. Like her father as well made a mark on the franchise. Should stay dead. Uncle Ben made a mark on the franchise. Should stay dead. Aunt May, she's made her mark over the years. She's been in plenty of amazing stories. I think now, or at least then was the perfect time to kill her. That was the perfect time to kill her. The second best time to kill her is right now. Because you no longer should be in this story, in my opinion. You could really do something amazing with the character, something really heartfelt that propels Spider-Man forward without having her be alive anymore, because at this point it's just a little egregious that this 90,000-year-old woman is still alive. Look at Batman and Alfred. Alfred, to my knowledge, has been dead in the comics for at least 6 years. I never thought that would be possible. I don't even read Batman, but I'm just shocked that they would kill a character off who's so important in Batman's mythos for so long. I think it's okay to kill Aunt May and do the same. It's just me, maybe, but I think it's her time to go. This woman is ancient. She's about as old as dust. She was in middle school with Jesus. That's how old she is. Gotta get her going. All right, we're at number 3. Okay, everybody, and for me, in my opinion, the third worst retcon in Spider-Man history. It's kind of large, actually. It's kind of encompassing, but it's just so bad, and there's so many little minute problems with it. I'm just gonna say the whole thing. It's the symbiotes going back and forth on who they are and what they're supposed to be. It's like nobody at Marvel can consistently decide on what they're supposed to do, what their weaknesses are supposed to be, what they're supposed to represent. It's constantly changing, and God, is it frustrating. Like, originally, and it wasn't even a bad retcon, it was actually a great retcon because it gave us the symbiotes. But originally, the black suit was just a black suit. That's it. That's all it was. Just a black suit. Gave Spider-Man pockets. And he can shapeshift his suit back on himself in an instant. And that was it. They retconned this and they gave it, more personality and feelings because Todd McFarlane didn't want to draw a black suit anymore and they hired him to draw Spider-Man comics. So they retconned this, they give him more feelings, and the suit goes on with Venom. At this point, it's still great. We got an awesome new character who would go on to become one of the most popular characters in all comics. Great retcon, honestly, phenomenal. But then you keep going and they just continuously keep retconning stuff. And at this point, the retcons are terrible. They're just flat out bad, right? So the Venom symbiote initially, it's just supposed to be scared and it wants to be alive, which is why it's the symbiosis with Peter Parker. It moves to Venom, and it's still in a similar mindset, except for the fact that it's mad at Peter Parker for getting rid of it, and Eddie Brock is mad at Peter Parker because he just got fired from his job because he believes it's Peter Parker's fault. So at this point, it's still not even inherently evil. It's not a bad guy. But this does change. Then all of a sudden, people start writing the Venom symbiote as if it's a monstrous creature that's straight up evil. And then you even have the Venom symbiote leaving somebody midair because they were villainous or vicious enough for him. And it's like, the Venom symbiote was not like that. If that was the case, he wouldn't have wanted with Peter Parker. He's not a vicious person, right? But on top of that, there's also the retcon of the fact that the Venom symbiote started to give people other powers that it never originally did. For example, initially the Venom symbiote could not give Spider-Man any additive powers because he was already enhanced by the spider bite. This was stated. Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote go back and forth. They talk about this, and he's like, "Oh, this is why you couldn't enhance Spider-Man's strength because of this." That's a fact. But then later on, Dan Slott writes it so that Spider-Man needs the Venom symbiote in order to beat the freaking Red Goblin. Goblin Carnage, Red Goblin. That alone, it's like, oh, that was just a retcon right there. That's not actually true. So there's another thing about the suit that's constantly being changed. Then you have their weaknesses. Initially, their weaknesses were sound and fire, and then out of nowhere, it's like, actually, Carnage is actually only weak to one of these, and Venom's more so weak to one than the other. And it's like, well, now they're actually resistant to both. They're not really weaknesses. They're almost unkillable. Also, the amount of symbiote goo on them has changed drastically, too, in retcon that are not officially stated. But initially, the Venom symbiote was a distinct size, right? It could cover Eddie Brock's body. But let's say you want to shoot out some tendrils. It would take a lot of the symbiote to do that. Nowadays, it's just an infinite amount of mass, essentially, to grow as large as it wants to. And there's no reasons or rhyme behind it. So to me, the third worst retcon in all of Spider-Man history has to be the fact that the Venom symbiote or Venom suit, I don't want to call it the Venom symbiote, but the black suit just constantly changed. Anything with symbiotes just constantly changes. It feels like from book to book. And we really need somebody to hunker down and be like, this is how it's going to be from going forward. Because they just keep pulling from different times in the timeline. So nothing's really making sense anymore with these guys. Right now, Venom is Mary Jane. Carnage is Eddie Brock. Like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. I mean, I do because I read all these books, but it's just like, what's happening, man? What are they doing there? So that's why I put this as the third worst retcon in all of Spider-Man history. We're going to move along to number 2. So I actually hinted at this one a little bit earlier, and we're going to talk about it now. The number 2 worst retcon in the entirety of Spider-Man's comics is Sin's Past. Yes, I talked about it. It actually is related to the number 9 retcon on this list, which is bringing back Harry to remove Sin's Past. But I think it goes without saying that Sin's Past should be ranked above it. Sin's Past is by far and away the second worst retcon in Spider-Man history. It is only topped by quite possibly the worst ever thought process or notion or anything written in Spider-Man history, which we'll get to at the number 1 spot. But what Sin's Past is, it's when Norman Osborn bangs Gwen Stacy. Yep, that happened, apparently. And it's just dastardly. I can't believe it. She writes a letter to Peter explaining that she had to leave. And you're like, okay. But then you actually find out she was banging Norman Osborn. You're like, what? This man's like 50 years old, and she at most at this point in the comic was 19 to 20. Why is he banging? I don't understand this. It's gross. It's nasty. Isn't she with Spider-Man? She with Spider-Man? That's nasty. That's just nasty. Think about it. I can't, there's not much to say other than how awful this is as a retcon. Gwen Stacy was never doing this in the original comics. This was written in the 2000s, and it's set when Gwen Stacy was alive, so obviously it's a retcon. Because Gwen Stacy never originally was shown banging Norman Osborn when she was like 20 years old. And on top of that, she also gets pregnant and has kids that like age super fast and trying to hunt down Spider-Man. It was terrible. Oh my god, it was so awful. I don't know who agreed with this in the first place, but this has got to be the second worst retcon in Spider-Man history. Now I'm about to get to the number 1 worst retcon in Spider-Man history. Before I do get there, there is one honorable mention I do think it's important we need to know. Okay, and this one honorable mention happens to be the death of Miss Marvel. Now, Miss Marvel isn't necessarily a Spider-Man character, and what the retcon isn't necessarily related to Spider-Man, but it happens in Spider-Man comics. That's why it's getting an honorable mention. This is during the Zeb Wells run. I recently made a video about everything wrong with the Zeb Wells run. If you do want to check it out, you can look at it right here. I'll put the picture of it up here so you know which one to click on. Just type in everything wrong with Zeb Wells Spider-Man. It'll come up. But Miss Marvel is killed off by this. What's his name? Oh my god. The emissary? And so he's trying to kill Mary Jane. He's doing this whole sexist bit where he's calling her a Scarlet Woman, this, that, and the third. Nobody liked it. It was terrible. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I have to, like, sugarcoat it. Everybody knew how bad it was as it was happening. We all hated it. But so that he couldn't kill Mary Jane, Miss Marvel shapeshifts. If you didn't know she could do that, obviously. This is the power she's had for a while. She makes herself look like Mary Jane. The emissary stabs her and kills her. And in turn, this makes him die for some reason. I don't know. They don't really explain any of that either. I guess the prophecy said he had to kill Mary Jane, the Scarlet Woman. The prophecy is also sexist too, apparently. But either way, we keep reading and we find out Miss Marvel's dead. She's right there. She's dying on the ground. And you get some of the worst art looking at her dead body on the floor. And you even get more moments where like other characters are like confronting people. Like I think, if I'm not mistaken, Miles Morales is fighting for Cyclops about him not showing up to the funeral and everything. And Cyclops is like, you just don't understand yet. If you knew the bigger picture, you get it. You don't understand. But that's what he's saying is true. We didn't understand. We didn't understand the depth and the length that Marvel will go to stoop so low just for the sake of it. You know, there's no reason nobody wanted this change to happen, this retcon to happen. But they did it anyway. What Cyclops was talking about was Miss Marvel resurrected as a mutant. Because the mutants have the ability at this time to resurrect one another through the resurrection chambers and Krakoa. I'm not even. I think Krakoa was still around at this point. But either way, they still have some resurrection chambers, I guess, because Miss Marvel gets resurrected. And she's a mutant now. She never was a mutant before. She was an Inhuman. And now she's a mutant. And this is just stupid. That's what Cyclops is talking about. Now she's going to be resurrected, which is why he wasn't really as sad as he could have been because he knew she was going to come back. But it's just dumb. She's not a mutant. She was originally planned to be an X-Men member. I'm not gonna lie. I know the truth. I know the DNA behind it. I know what it comes from. But she wasn't. She was a human. You wanna know why they did that? Because Marvel didn't have the rights to the X-Men in the movies. So they were like, no, we're not gonna make her an X-Men. We'll make the Inhumans and we'll try and publicize the Inhumans and grow them a bit. Because they'll be our universe's X-Men, so we don't have their rights. And then we'll just kill off the X-Men. And it's like, okay, well, you bought Fox, so now you have the X-Men movie rights back. So what do? They're like, oh, well, if we have the movie rights back, let's just turn her into an X-Men like we originally planned. And it's like, why do your movie rights affect the comics so goddamn much? Like, it affects everything. You didn't have any X-Men in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. You didn't have any X-Men or Fantastic Four in Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. Like, this is annoying. Like, we love these characters. Just because you don't have the movie rights because you guys brokered a bad deal in the early 2000s doesn't mean us fans should have to suffer not being able to see our favorite characters in other mediums they still have the rights to. Gosh, this is so stupid. But that is the honorable mention. Miss Marvel being resurrected as a mutant and killed off the Amazing Spider-Man. But the very worst of the worst of the worst, the absolute worst, the something worst in it in the entirety of the Amazing Spider-Man comics, or Spider-Man comics in general. But this is one more back. It's easily. I think anybody who clicked on this video knew this was going to be the answer. Like, this is really choice. This comic fucking sucks. There's no way around it. It's terrible. The retcon's the best marriage in all of comics. Like, I'm not even saying in Spider-Man. I'm not saying in Marvel. I'm not saying in the big two. I'm saying in all of comics. Mary Jane and Spider-Man were like that. They were in every adaptation together too. It was so perfect. It was so fire. We all loved it. Then like 2007 rolls around with the big wigs at Marvel who really just like to just peddle the dumbest ideas they could possibly think of. So they're like, let's get rid of Mary Jane and Spider-Man being together. You know what the fans deserve? They deserve the Spider-Man that we all grew up with, which was the Spider-Man from 60 years ago. That's what the fans deserve. The fans deserve to not move forwards at all. The fans deserve to be stuck in the past from 60 years ago. That's what the fans deserve, right? So that's what we got. They decided that us fans would rather see a character never grow again past the 60 years, or at the time it was more than 40 years. Past the 40 years he was allowed to grow, and never grow again since then, in the 18 years since then. So now we're sitting here, we're just like, okay, well, one more day happened, and Spider-Man comics have been terrible ever since. Like, yeah, there's been good moments, like Mr. Negative was created, right? I don't really like any of the Spider-Verse events besides this current one, but the Spider-Verse events help create the Spider-Verse movies, even though there was a Spider-Verse animation companion show before the event of the comics. Even so, the comics still had some good stuff since then, nothing wrong, but nothing actually happens, right? Spider-Man doesn't grow, Spider-Man doesn't change, Spider-Man becomes a CEO, Spider-Man is no longer a CEO. Spider-Man starts dating Carl Cooper, Spider-Man no longer dating Carl Cooper. Spider-Man starts dating this new girl, Shane? I can't remember her name, but they're not together anymore either. Spider-Man's allowed to get back with Mary Jane, and Spider-Man's no longer allowed to be Mary Jane. It's just such a constant revolving door. Spider-Man is Superior Spider-Man. Is Doc Ock? No, Doc Ock is no longer Superior Spider-Man. Back to the point. Doc Ock is Superior Spider-Man again? Doc Ock is no longer Superior Spider-Man. Doc Ock is Superior Spider-Man again? Doc Ock is no longer Superior Spider-Man again. Like, it's really, I'm not even exaggerating. It happened 3 different times. 3 different times in like 7 years. That's crazy. So I'm over here sitting here just like rereading the same books for the last 15, 18 years. And I'm going crazy over here. And it's all because one more day. Solely because of this one god-awful trash retcon. We have yet to be able to move forward. The writer for One More Day is one of the greatest writers in all Spider-Man history. He was forced to write this book. And he really pleaded with the higher-ups of Marvel to not even have his name on the book. That's how embarrassed he was by what they were making him do. That's how terrible this book is. That's how terrible One More Day is. It's just god-awful. And I can't believe that it's still being peddled to this day that it's actually a thing in the Spider-Man mythos. Like, think about it. Spider-Man made a deal with the devil to break up his marriage with Mary Jane so that he can get Aunt May back. Because, again, this is also another retcon for Aunt May dying. Also, it's 2 in 1. It's not just a breakup of Spider-Man and Mary Jane's marriage. It's also, we need Aunt May alive again because she's not old enough. She's only 180. We need her to at least be 350. Because that's what it feels like at least. So Spider-Man makes his deal with the devil, gets his Aunt May back, loses his marriage, and 18 years later, it's still the quo. It's still status quo. Nothing's changed. The good guy, the hero of the story, did not go back from making the deal with the devil. The deal with the devil is still just in effect. How is he a hero? How is this a heroic story 18 years later? They still haven't fixed it. This is by far the worst retcon in Spider-Man's history. It's terrible. And I think every single person who knows anything about Spider-Man comics will agree. But I'm not going to go too far and force you guys to agree because I want to know truthfully what you guys think down below. Sims Pass could be up there. You know, Norman Osborn banging Gwen Stacy's pretty gross too. So let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are. I'm personally very interested, you know, and I can't wait to read them. I don't really have anything else in this video. Those are my top 10 worst retcons in Spider-Man history, plus an honorable mention. And I think it's a pretty good list, personally. I thought it was pretty well done. But yeah, if you guys have any also other retcons that you didn't like, that you want to see, maybe comment those down below, and maybe I'll even do one on good retcons in Spider-Man's history. There's also been a few good ones, so maybe I'll do a video on that. But all in all, that's pretty much it for me. I don't think I have anything else to say. Yeah, that's it. Don't doubt. Peace. We are ready for the head-to-head competition. Let's go out first. Blank. UVA 2. A tremendous season. I'll start today. Alright, Jeff Carter, first match. His second match. Gets a leg tap on number 4, down she goes.
Yeah, you heard him tell Wes Malott right before commercial that it's going to take 260 plus to win this match. He says that on this condition. You kidding?
Showman, we know that. Wes Malott, guys, been on TV 6 times now. That's twice in his career. Chicago last year did second ever major TV appearance for Wes. Coming to us from just outside of Dallas, Texas. And Randy Orton's matchup. Beat so many majors. He's won 7. Wes never has, but just one game, Randy, for Wes to take his first ever major title.
Yeah, I know that Pete's got all the experience when it comes to winning major titles. And Pete's done it, and Fender's done that. But your nickname is the Big Nasty. You know, trouble always ensues. I mean, you see that opening shot from 3, especially on this inside pattern of about feet. Just like that.
It's not hooked the way you want it. 2 4's up.
It's real good when you get right target on this isn't a mark. Well, yeah, especially on the left lane, as we saw Dave Diamond in our opening match, 2-8 after 2-8 after 2-8. With a small adjustment.
Cubs get 2. We finished in 3rd place in the 04 World Championships. Ypsilanti, Michigan leads to Michigan University campus. Cup, Taylor, Michigan, Chicago. Cleveland, where Boston's good friend Tom Jones. Netflix. So all TV shows this year for us. So right here. Crunches down ball, 10 into the pitch, track everywhere. A great shot by King-Rex.
No, you're right. You're jumping to the left. And keep in mind, his break point is still the same. Dark strip down the lane. He's still using that as bank.
Inside it goes high flush.
And a ball change, I believe.
Off to another tremendous start.
I think the other thing that makes the U.S. Open such a prestigious event is the names that have won this prestigious title. Names like Don Carter, Dick Weber, Dave Houston won it 3 times. Del Valle Jr. won it twice. Marshall Green, Andy Garapapa, Ultimate Winner Jr. Wes Malott doesn't even have the list.
With shots like that, it might just happen. Let's check in with the atomic end.
It's all about Wes Malott. Watch what his fingers do right here. They're going to go to the left. That's ridiculous. Don't try that at home. What happens when you do that is going to create rotation like this. With 16 pounds, speed, nothing's got a chance to get to the way. Great look from our crew in time. That's easy. Shot. This is fucking left.
Crosses over. Gets 9. That's lucky. But the disaster there. Just has the tap here.
The ball starts around the 27th floor of the arrows, goes out to the 12th floor. You do that. It's a lot of boards that you're covering out there. That's the way the Wings played this week.
Campaign for West makes his 12th career TV show today. Last was in Watford this season in January. Lost to Tottenham in the semifinals, 183. Pete Weber off to another great start as it's her to begin this match. The final resumes next. Well, I think
We're going to take a look at the adjustment that Pete Weber made from his first match to this match. The match against Jeff Carter, you can see he's around the 23rd quarter clearance and right before the 10th quarter to 3 point. And now, here's the move. 27th board, and this is what's perplexing to all of us in the movie. One, he misses left at the 3 point, and everything he goes straight forward. The screen moves.
Because he has side turn. Now,
looks to the front top, guys.
He wants more than half of the front end of the first match. He's got that voodoo sidewalk, which just makes the ball so perfectly on this pattern. It's ridiculous.
plus me.
He's meaner than Junkyard Dog.
That was a control explosion. One beat is from the middle.
It does. Great connection for Wes Malacca. We heard him say a moment ago after he crossed over on the Griffin strike. He can't miss again.
Well, I don't think he can. I mean, he just announced it. He needs 60 or better. If he strikes out, it's 260.
And good luck. First ever championship match in a major for West Malacca. He qualified first, but the team himself $50,000. Second place prize. That's right. You like all 100, thank you.
Cable Man, he really writes on that one. But check this out. You got it right at that waypoint, which is where Rivers getting it back from. Very clean power. It's going to look back.
It's for $600. Yeah. 10 p.m. For the front five, you would have earned $600 from up to the 6 official value partner of the PBA. And the eligible for the $6,000 bonus. Those the most front six. Any bowler on tour. What a day for Pete. Front eight. The first match from 5 to this one. So you see, it's 2-game win to the top.
And as we see so much on PGA Tour, one guy fires back at the other. It's just that presence. It seems to be the other guy who's just enough to get off the street. Whoever displays his ring in the match.
Tired of machine guys, but can't muffle up. So, 1-6 in the finals. Got Chris Loshek.
He said, operate that and the ball high push. She'll take that for a stimulus. He's going to roll down right next to what the right high push.
Knocks it in. Say okay. Get it urgent. TV's fourth of the season for the Hall of Fame. To a turkey. Will not get it.
This ball just does not respond off that same spot. He ready for that Carter ball responded okay from there. They catch one so-so. But right now, what I see today, Nobody's going to gas like he says. This whole time. It's going to be a great point to say that ball just good. It's like the best ball state right there. So don't make the pocket at all.
Well, I pulled right next to Wentz a lot this week, and his ball responded off that spot quite consistently. Why it's not responding now, I don't know.
Because it's Sunday.
Because it's
So we're friends with Tommy Jones. One of the year. Last year. This is a lead together of two young guns. This is the moment he needs. High. Whoever's ball would like to support left with that shot. He's consolidating this match. This looks like a pretty good shot right here.
I agree. I think it's quality. If you look at his hand, it's still as ever.
Not another single can't pick up. 10 appearances the last 2 years on team with the Reds after his first 3 seasons. He's come along ready. He told us yesterday that how he's learned to make adjustments. We talked about a lot of time from last year. More this year. Without question, both of those players are from the right now, that's one of the things he's going to free. So high. First shot this year, little high, deep, exception. Shot the 10 the last match didn't matter. Right now, we're getting down to crunch time. This is where you really start to feel it when you start to get shots creep in. When you are certain, and that's what you don't want to have. Yes, great. Slightly less for our back in this match. There are 2 frames left in the ball, and people are going to teach me to expect this one. She's got 9, 10, 15, 25. Long shot. Big shot. That was pure. That's Hall of Fame stuff right there. Watch out, get this in. Look for the open hand. That's the loose point. Right here, the ball through there it is. And look at that beautiful balance. Efficiency of motion. PDW signature of motion.
Both the guys continue breathing loud every shot.
Counts as a shot clock violation. Did the smart thing, rebound the recoil there, and held on to it. So, it's up close to the left of the shot. So, you need to do that. That's one of the use on the approach to try to get around it. So, it's the last one. Position. Things down. 4-pin. Get another pretty good shot. He's scored a little bit more. He says, "You're straight. What happened?"
Well, both of these cases, the ball just reacts a little soon, and then tipped it. Buckley, and the next time.
3 and 10 make Pete Weber bark to win his 4th U.S. Open title. If West Vermont does not have a 10 flag, Pete Weber is going to win sitting on the bench. First ever in 4 U.S. Open titles. This guy has 3 along with him.
Not ran into the gun cap.
He's so far left that his foot actually slid into the bear cap.
Lefty.
It's probably about the 6'4". Remember when he was 9 foot plus, side to side. And the boys are now using all. We saw Tommy Jones do that last year. He was lofting it over the bear cap on the back of the end, standing in front of the origin. This is what the U.S. Open called in Houston. It's the highest tournament I've ever seen. During that time of the show in the U.S. Open.
Good shot, too.
Because you can, it's not the U.S. Open, and now you have to consider Pete Weber as Player of the Year, or being the front runner for Player of the Year. A title he's never won before.
On the bench. He has the numbers to win his 34th title and tie Earl Anthony's record of 8 major championships. This is just victory lap. He needs 6. Lenny. 2 titles on the year, 1 major of the year, 2nd place in the Japan Cup. Yes.
Jason Gallows 190 in the last match. Just enough to help him go to match number 2 and start us off. Good start. Not surprised. The more angle that Jason Belmonte can create by moving left, the better and better his reactions when they get. 6 strikes, 1 hand load for Barnes, and that's number 1. And he matches Belmo's strike with one of his own. The dad is tell you what, my kids may be a sign. I'm just trying to walk away from that one. The kids make you a sign and say, my dad is mad. That's about right. Come home, Dad. Come home. Where are you? I'm not sure I have a dad. Here's Jason Belmonte on the left blade. Right at target, a nice big kick on the 10. He just double wood. Rob, I suspect that eventually he'll get back from that spot. Crash! Woo! Kick the field goal and nip both uprights. Takes the axe to both of them. Not the easiest of spares, the 2-8, but double make it pretty easy. Barnes just such a great strategist. He always has a game plan going in. Doesn't mean it's always right. But this guy's rarely fooled by anything.
Chris used to view himself as a bit of a power player, but he's had to evolve to compete.
As I've gotten older, the bar just keeps getting higher and higher. I just get harder and more reps on it. And so now I've had to become more of an intellectual player. And so moving around in the lanes, seeing a ball reaction and then reacting to it in the correct way and doing it immediately rather than doing it wrong once or twice or 5 frames and getting it 5 frames from the game away. That's been the key to my success over the last 5 or 6 years.
I think he's really enjoying having his family.
sitting this close, having boys in attendance as well. Always helps when you're doing well. Rash can see himself a little bit.
I also think he really enjoys this format. This isn't a one and done, a one game and out head-to-head match. This gives you a chance to get your feet underneath, to get a couple games on television before that title match.
Back to that thought just a second. There's Bello on the right as Barnes takes a look. 10 not drop. Talk about this Barnes, but we've seen him through the years on TV show after TV show. Here's Sean Rash, gets himself to spare, and his competitors would say, I'll take on Barnes in a one-match deal. I'd rather not, but I'll do it. But if it's a 5-match deal or a longer type format, it's usually that guy's time.
Yeah, over a long period of games. You take the U.S. Open format, for example, you throw 50-plus games at you. My money's on Chris Barnes to be there, be close to the top.
Three in a row to open up match 2. Rash has struggled here. 8 spare, 9 spare in the third.
I've seen that one before.
Two seconds, second time we've seen it. This match, it goes right way.
100% on that split.
Chris Barnes, from 3. And early in the top 2, move on to the championship now. The Geico Shark Open. Sort of Ray and Peterson, welcome you back to the World Series of Bowling, the Geico Shark Open. We're in the midst of match 2 through 3 frames. Chris Barnes on the top, elbow in second. Sean Rash just barely outside. It's Jason Belmonte. Strike, spare. In the fourth. He's got the Canadian Open. Take down the Shark.
Chris Barnes, what is it that your ball reaction looks so much better than Jason Belmonte and Sean Rash's?
I don't know that it's all that much better, but it is staying in contact with the lane a little bit. This long ball, my speed's a little bit softer. It's probably making it a little bit easier on me. But, ready to move 5 left 2, you might notice he's got such a slightly higher effort than I do. And so I have to move in the air as well. And I'm sure they have that for his carry to their advantage.
It's set here. His effort in the fourth.
It's funny that Chris Barnes is not exactly straight in terms of amount of curve, but compared to Jason Belmonte and Sean Rash, don't get me wrong, Chris has got plenty of power. It was evident when you just saw the 6 just kick the living you-know-what out of the 10 pin there on that last shot.
Well, Barnes may not have as much power as a guy like Rash, but he does have more experience. And he shared much of those work with his fellow Wichita State shot.
I've had a lot of great mentors in the past. Chris Barnes, I was Wichita State alumni here. He's helped me quite a bit when I first got into it. And Chris has got one of the best work ethics there is. And Chris has had his ups and his downs on tour, probably more ups and downs. He's given himself a chance to win, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day.
Strike number number one. Line big strike in match 2 for Rash. Looking to the heavens for some support. One pin separating the two rivals, Belmont and Rash. And Chris Barnes leaping out to the early lead. He's swing, comfortable. A little wide of targets.
Watch this now. See how it's just wide of target. It hits that ledge of oil. It's dumped over the way by the oiling machine. Anything right up about 7 or 8 board, it hits the cliff. It's lucky to get me.
Great pocket presence. More high fives with his son Ryan. Ryan's into it today, though. He's dialed in. Jason, spare, got it. Rash. Double. Didn't like it. So, splits.
Missed it at the bottom, missed right. No chance. 210. This is the third split that he's had in 5 frames. Oh, yeah!
Down with the 210. Double hasn't struck since the first. And that's your fast, safe pain relief replay brought to you by the makers of Bayer Advanced Aspirin.
Textbook. Questions with shot on the control strikes. You know, he can use splits and convert that, but to advance to the title match, he's going to have to start 12 strikes.
Ho hum, another strike for Chris Barnes.
Barnes is making it look easy.
Sure it is.
234 in game 1. So the first 6 this game, he's making it look stupid easy.
Strike number 2 for Sean Rash.
Sometimes it's not always about how much you can hook it. Chris Barnes just rolling it nice and clean off his hand. Absolutely running these guys over thus far.
Rash, one hit better than Belmont from 6. Jason leads the 10. It's essentially a Belmont Rash battle right now. Mathematically, Barnes is not locked it up, obviously, but he's in the right place. Great pull this game. In the 7 from the left lane, and another strike. Wow, that was a big slap there from Murphy.
Right now, it's kind of like watching Chris Barnes trying to jump over Del Monte and Rash in a steamroller.
Top 2 move on to the title match here. Geico. Sharp open. Elmo and Rash off tight. And another split.
Yeah, back-to-back 210s on that right way. Converting out, this will be the 4th split in this game. A little softer than next. And fall check into the center. So it stops going 60 feet for hooks. Open frame.
first opening frame. Jason takes advantage. And he's nice enough to open up the door for you. Least you can do is walk in. And he did it nicely. That's eight.
By the way, this guy named Chris Barnes is going to bowl for the title.
He's bowling for history right now. Lash in the eighth. How about that? Kids, maybe pull a little emphasizing their highest score. Yes, indeed, it is a 300. That, or this. We know something we don't. That's possible. That strikes in the eighth, and another one here in the ninth. Jason.
Absolute great shot. Magnificent. Jason Belmonte. Yeah, taking advantage. Making frame the seventh by Sean Rash. Steps up. Shoots a beautiful double.
Nine in a row.
Oh, are you going to mention it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. I won't say anything like it.
We have two storylines going right here. Chris Barnes, perfect. 9 frames. Jason Belmonte holding on to a 21 in advantage for Sean Rash. Needs the championship game.
210, check.
Elmo about to move on. It's tired. Sean.
Very much known to be.
He's going to do a lot of bowling this season. So spare there for Sean in the ninth. Elmo looking for a 3-bagger as we open up 10.
Wow.
It's going to take the drama out of the fight for second. And now center stage. Rightfully gets handed over to Chris Barnes.
Elmo Barnes title match. Eyes around the man of blue shirt.
And we had a 299 game 1 of qualifying at the Sharp. Two strikes away from a 300 game. Belmo quickly stepped up and fired. Everybody just trying to get out of the way. But Chris Barnes had a crack at history. Jason's just stepping, firing, and walking away.
$10,000 bonus for a perfect game. Looks real confident. Real confident.
One strike away from perfection.
Let's enjoy this one.
One shot away. History of 300 games. Somebody just cashed in Vegas. Another look at that last effort. Number 12 goes down in the pit. Wife Linda, bride and Troy, there to see their dad and husband make history. Ah, beautiful.
You can tell these fans have waited all winter for some great bowling action right here at the Hall of Fame. We start off with the first event of the year, and it's a major Players' Championship. It will be a step-by final meeting. 4 and 5 will face off first. After you win, you advance up that ladder. Take on Dexter Svensson, and whoever wins that goes to Greg Bob, all the way up to EJ Tackett. And welcome to the CW. We love that the PBA Tour is now at home with the CW and a couple new faces to the broadcast. We've got a 2-time title winner in Kyle Sherman, and I'm Rick Allen, and I'm really happy if I can bowl 150, but that's actually a good thing. A major to start off the season. How big is this, Kyle?
Well, first off, they're going for $100,000 first place, so that's not too bad. But a major championship to start the season, tournaments like this is what careers are defined by. So these guys, there's a different feel in the air, there's a different level of intensity, and this winning a tournament like this can make your career.
And a lot of interesting facets to the 5 that are playing here. We've got obviously 2 rookies that are going to start off. But then once we go through there, you have Graham Faw and Jesper Svensson, the 2 and 3 seed. Graham Faw, the 2025 Delaware Classic winner, also has had great success at a major.
Yes, Graham Faw actually winning this same event 10 years ago yesterday. So he's not shy to the lanes out here.
And Jesper Svensson also the 2025 PGA Tournament of Champions winner. But they will all have to, or at least whoever gets to them, they will have to face EJ Tackett.
Yeah, this guy has been the best bowler in the world. No one can touch him. He's making every step ladder, and he seems to make it look easy. I bowled next to him all week, and it was just so impressive, his dominance on the lanes.
Right there. This is why the U.S. Open champion. Let's hear from him. He's standing by with a 3rd member of our team, Savannah Dubois.
Thanks, Rick. I'm here with EJ Tackett. EJ, you were chasing your 8th major today. What would it mean to you to finally successfully win the Players' Championship?
That'd be amazing. I've been close to this championship a couple times. Lost to Bill O'Neill by 1 pin a few years ago. But you know, I'm trying to win every major championship I show up to. So this is one I would love to add to my trophy case. And I'm gonna go out there today and bowl the best I can. And hopefully it's good enough to hoist that trophy at the end of the day.
3 straight Player of the Year awards. You have a potential, if you did win today, to maybe be named as a 4th consecutive Player of the Year. That would be the first time ever. What do you think about that potential scenario for yourself?
I mean, obviously it's something I'm aware of, but you can't sit and dwell on it. You can't think about it. You have to go out, you have to perform in championships, win some, and hopefully at the end of the year, the peers believe that you had the best season to name you Player of the Year, and that's all I can do. So it starts today with 1 more game. Hopefully I can win and get that year off to a good start.
And EJ, how do you get off to a hot start today?
I believe it's going to be pretty high scoring. So it's going to be strikes early and often, to apply some pressure to my opponent, whoever that may be today, and hopefully string something together and, like I said, hoist the trophy at the end of the day.
Thanks, EJ.
First game of the day will feature Wichita State alums. That's right, they were teammates. Brandon Bonham and Spencer Rivard, two rookies, face off in our first match.
That left lane first.
Big miss there on the two pin. That's just nerves. That's just being on TV for the first time. But hopefully you got a mistake out of the way and you can get back to throwing some good shots.
And let's let Spencer introduce himself.
I won the PBA Junior National Championship, the very first one that they ran, and I made a TV show at the USBC Masters at 18 years old in 2021. My name is Spencer Rivard.
You mentioned teammates at Wichita State. They both said the second that first ball is thrown, they're no longer friends or teammates, they're competitors. Doing the same thing. How about that?
Cross it over there on the Brooklyn side. Leaves an 8 in there. It's kind of an unlucky break there, actually. But this, I think, early on, you see the powerful form by Spencer there, two-handed delivery. I think early on, these guys are just going to have to settle in. Whoever gets settled in the quickest, if you see this to a ball under these TV lights, it's going to have a real advantage.
You also said you can't really feel your legs when you first start off the first time.
Yes. And Rick Norwood said he doesn't have a ball with no legs.
And he picks his way. And the way this will work, he will go to the left lane for his second frame, and then we'll alternate back and forth.
Yep, let's take a look.
Let's talk about his arsenal.
Spencer's arsenal here. They haven't done ball and he's able to use different ball levels on each one.
Seven pins.
Going high there again in the 2-4-7. Both players are just trying to get comfortable here.
This is good. And remember, these are two rookies that are taking on each other as far as former teammates.
As we take a look at Spencer in the far front here, he's throwing the Viper Track Synthesis. Synthesis is going to be a stronger ball ball that's going to be definitely encouraging to go some stronger coverage. Remember, we're actually going at a different one that they qualified all week. Really important work there. So their strategy on what they're going to do in the lanes is going to change for it. Now, Brandon throwing, let's take a look at his arsenal. Throwing, like you said, maybe important enough to never do this ball on the ball time all week ago.
And he does here, and his first strike is a professional.
Great rebound there by Brandon. Nice to get